Us movie review. What did the ending of Us mean? Like, why scissors? Okay, this story has all the Us spoilers. We're gonna talk about Jordan Peele's follow-up to 2017's Get Out has the potential to get analyzed to death. The internet is certain Us is a horror movie. So we will listen to the guy. Our questions do. It was based on a real event called Hands Across America. The same guy but we still don't get why the tethered, who seem to have joined the hand-holding chain once they killed their above-ground counterparts, created it. They weren't taking. We have to conclude that they were, like the Hands Across America people, trying to make a statement. But that's not. We know that the tethered Wilsons, along with the Tyler's Elizabeth Moss and her brotastic husband and maniacal twin daughters, had counterparts underground. And we saw all that, but that's in California, in a pretty densely populated area. If they were mirroring, at some point during Red's horrifying first monologue, she says that based on the look of the facility when Adelaide was young, it seemed to have already been abandoned by then, which would have been the 80s. Adelaide has parents. Look, we only saw this movie once, so we may have missed some glaring answer to this question. But it's frustrating. Jason somehow starts walking backward, concentrating hard, and then his tethered Pluto begins walking forward. Pluto walks off. Okay, that twist. Maybe we're gullible, and did Adelaide, or wait, did Adelaide's creepy little smile in that very last shot of her, looking at Jason, mean that she's absolutely known the truth forever? And was just trying? Maybe we'll never know. But we want to. Other questions that we can guess the answers to, but still. Because that's all they had left after the humans abandoned them? But did they really have, from a huge supply the humans started with, we guess? And the helicopters, were they getting ready to kill the tethered? Or were the tethered just towards the human chain? Wouldn't that be probably, because they never had a reason to underground, and never learned language. Adelaide clearly remembered enough. But you'd think that we have more, but we kinda want to see Us again in case all of these QS are glaringly obvious upon second viewing. Feel free to add
Raindrop, drop top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park pot.